but mostly people are expressing their thoughts after knowing a little bit of why we are commemorating this. They ask what was the mindset of these people who committed this heinous crime, a catastrophic event. Apparently, it must have been someone very powerful that the remembrance of this incident has not forgotten. Could you elaborate the root cause of the incidents of Karbala and the background of the mindset and the motivation behind it, why it happened?
So, why it happened is you have to look at this goes back to the rise of Islam, to the birth of Islam, to the early calls of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam to a new religion. So Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, when he came, um, most people in his tribe opposed him. Most people of Mecca opposed him, and they fiercely opposed him until the last day. They opposed him, and people of Mecca never became Muslims. They embraced Islam only because otherwise they would have been killed. They would have been to save their lives and to take advantage of the privileges of being a Muslim under Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They professed Islam. Otherwise, they remained enemies of Islam. So why the tragic event of Karbala happened? Because of this animosity that people of Mecca felt towards Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam toppled them from being the chiefs of the Arabs and being the leaders of the Arab society. And because the people of Mecca imposed wars against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they attacked Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and they waged wars. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, they were forced to defend themselves, forced to defend Islam. And the first battles occurred. In these battles, people of Mecca were time and again badly and very embarrassingly defeated. And many of their leaders, many of their heroes, many of their chiefs, they were killed. And many of these were killed at the hands of Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. But people of Mecca, of course, especially Bani Umayyad, they blamed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam for all of this. They considered him the root cause of the total system being turned upside down. The tribal system that they had, and their religion was to worship idols and paganism, and that religion was abandoned by people, and they were disowned. Their gods were disowned. Their traditions were disavowed. And then what happened? Of course, the blood. Because their chiefs were killed in these wars. And what happened after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam? The same people who had opposed Islam, opposed Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and waged wars against Islam, same people, they became leaders of Islam under Abu Bakr and Umar. Abu Bakr and Umar were figureheads. The real power were in the hands of Bani Umayyah. And they were very influential, especially in the court of Abu Bakr and then in the court of Umar. And then Uthman, of course, he himself was from Bani Umayyah. So after 10 years from the hijrah, migration of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, as you would know, that he was martyred. He didn't die a natural death. So there was a coup at the house of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was actually a coup, and Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was replaced by a figurehead person, weak leader such as Abu Bakr. But the real power went back to Quraysh, to the enemies of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And Quraysh, and of course the conquests happened. New lands were conquered, new people entered Islam. And of course, Quraysh not only became the chiefs of Medina and Mecca, Quraysh became the chiefs of the world. Their empire expanded. But all this time, Quraysh blamed. They did not forget. They never forgot their grudge against the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their disdain and their utmost enmity towards Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam and Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam. So why did the incident of Karbala happen? The real reason, the root cause of it, it was just the continuity of the struggle of Quraysh against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. It happened because they wanted to massacre Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam family, because otherwise their government, their rule Their kingship would not reach its pinnacle if they had not avenged the blood. They would be true leaders. They would be true heroes. Their empire would have a meaning if they avenged the heroes and the chiefs and their warriors who were killed in the initial battles against Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is the true reason, and that is voiced by Imam Hussein alayhi salam and voiced also by Banu Umayyah themselves. Imam Hussein alayhi salam on the day of Ashura faced the enemy and he addressed them. He said, "Don't you know I'm the progeny of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the grandson of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam?" They said, "Of course we know that. Don't you know that I've not done anything? I've not violated any law. I'm totally innocent. I don't have any animosity towards you. I've not killed anyone from you. I've not taken any property of yours." They said, "We know, of course we know that." Then he asked them this very, very critical question. Yeah. Why have you come here? Why have you gathered here to shed my blood? They said, "Bughdan li abik." They said, "Because we hate your father. Because for the hatred that we have for your father." And his father was Amir al-Mu'minin Ali alayhi salam. His father, because of course, Bani Umayyah could not clearly express their animosity for the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They could not articulate that. Otherwise, they would have said it. Politically, it would have been a suicide for them. They say that "Bughdan minna li jaddik," because we hate your grandfather. Because Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salatu wasalam did not engage in those wars except with the permission of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, under the command of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Bani Umayyah engaged in propaganda Amir al-Mu'minin alayhi salam, and to call him names and swear at him and curse him and use pejoratives from Mimbar, invectives from Mimbar for ages, for decades. But they, of course, they would have done the same thing against the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. But it would have been political suicide for them. So they did not do that. So what Bani Umayyah themselves, and Imam Hussein alayhi salam himself, as time and again, they've expressed why this tragedy befell Ahlul Bayt alayhim salam and why they were massacred at Karbala. Because they wanted to avenge. Bani Umayyah wanted to avenge Badr and Uhud and Ahzab and Hunayn and the conquest of Mecca. And Allah gave glory. Allah gave these conquests to the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, but Bani Umayyah did not see it as that. Bani Umayyah saw that a clan of Quraysh, Banu Hashim, they have trampled over all of other Quraysh, including Bani Umayyah. They saw it in terms of a tribal conflict. And they wanted to avenge this tribal grudge. And that's why Karbala happened. That is in a summary, in summation. Inshallah, if you follow my Urdu lectures, I'll present that in more detail, inshallah.
Definitely. Most definitely. Yes. Thank you very much. And of course, yes, this happened in the 61 Hijri, the incidents of Karbala, which is probably has its inheritance in his trail at the demise of the Prophet Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Obviously, and then they have 70, 80 years or 100 years of power, 100 years of authorities. Everybody was in their control. Obviously, they try to cover it up and operate it as a clash between the two groups or war. But I would like you to touch base on this, whether it was a clash or a war or a dispute between the two groups. It seems as it was the immense clash between the two school of thoughts, two characters, and it would not have been continued otherwise if it was not such a big event. So, what is your take on the 70 years of the ruling of Umayyads to cover up this and distorted the history? How would we find the real fact, and how would we know actually what happened? Uh, because majority of Muslims are believing in what is they have as a compilation of historical events in several books, and they believe in that without any verification, without going through in details and investigating what actually was the reason of this. So there is a big cover up. how do you comment on
So,
finding the facts from other chronicles, from other historical facts? How would we find the fact, about whether this was a war or a clash between the two school of thoughts?
when the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam was killed, he was poisoned, and leadership of Muslims was usurped, and a coup occurred in the house of Islam, in the house of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and leadership was changed from prophethood and imamah into dictatorship. Of course, Islam became a tool for these dictators from day one. From that time, religion became a tool to serve their temporal, their worldly, their material purposes, and their political gains. That's what Islam has been serving for ages, since that time till today. And a new Islam was preached from day one, rather from the time of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There were many Sahaba who ridiculed the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam in his lifetime. They didn't really believe that he was a Nabi, and that's another another matter for another day. But especially after the demise of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, teachings of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and teachings of Islam were changed at every turn. And we are talking about a society that is absolutely illiterate. There's no one educated there. There was not a single book in the entire Arabia. Not a single book. At the time the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, the Christians and Jewish people, they had books. They had many books, several books. But Arabs did not have a single book. Even they didn't have the whole noble Quran. Many people think that the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, but at least Quran was there. No, even Quran wasn't there. Quran was not compiled into a book form for a while after the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam had passed away. So the society is totally illiterate. And there are only a few people who had seen the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Because Islam is expanding so rapidly, the number of people who have seen the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam are very few compared to the rest of the society. And lots of those people, especially in leadership positions, they had seen the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam for a very little time, because they were tulaqa. They were people who became Muslim after the conquest of Mecca. They became Muslims not sincerely. They became Muslims because they wanted to take advantage of the privileges of being Muslims. So they did not really learn much about Islam. And now these people were appointed as governors, appointed as leaders into new areas that were conquered. If you look at the history of Islam, who were the various governors of Abu Bakr and Umar? They were not senior Sahaba. Abu Bakr and Umar did not appoint senior Sahaba and devout Sahaba to the position of leadership of new lands. They appointed whom? They appointed Quraysh, the Tulaqa, the people from the tribe of Quraysh, Abu Sufyan and his sons and the rest, as governors. And Abu Bakr and Umar's policy and then Osman's policy was that they are forbidden from narrating the khutbahs of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the sermons of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the hadith of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. That is a very, very shocking fact, perhaps for you, that how new people are entering Islam, new lands are conquered, and the conquerors are not allowed, per the command of the Caliph, to tell them about these sayings of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. They are not allowed. Hadith is disallowed, narration of hadith. So what are they teaching them? So people who become Islam, if you don't know anything about the Sunnah of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam, their sayings, and Quran was not compiled until later. So what are they going to learn? Nothing. So that gave rise. So whatever they came up with, these governors, they were new converts themselves. Whatever they came up with, that was, and we are talking about this. This is the time when there were no books, and all books have been taken from those sources. The books came later. Muslim books came later. They are taken from those sources, right? So what happened then? What happens is a new Islam is born. Each region has its own Islam.
Yeah.
But that was not the idea of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam and Allah's idea. Allah's instruction was that Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam has to be succeeded by someone like him. someone like him, and that would be Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. And he was the deposit of the knowledge and the guidance of the Nabi sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. So, what were the effects of the rule of Bani Umayyah? The effect of the rule and the consequences of the rule of Bani Umayyah is that a new religion was born. That is
Absolutely.
that looks like Islam, that has same name as Islam, but is totally different than Islam. Its tawheed
Different
is different
context.
than its tawheed is different than tawheed of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Its ahkam are different than the ahkam of Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Its interpretation of the Quran and the divine text is different, radically different from that of the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So Islam was lost. What was the consequence of the rule of Bani Umayyad? And in fact, if not for Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, in few of their Shia, a very small minority, a very minute minority who were massacred by these Bani Umayyad time and again, at every turn.
That's very. I would
Islam,
like to add one
the
more
only
to
thing
that.
that remained from the Nabi sallallahu alaihi wasallam were these Shia of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam, who were massacred time and again.
Absolutely.
Other than that, Islam was absolutely lost. Islam was gone. There was no, and till today, there is no Islam except what the followers of Ahlul Bayt alayhi salam believe and they promote. Yeah.
Definitely, most definitely, because if Imam Hussein al-Islam had not taken a stand against this evil school of thought, we would have been we would not have known who was our prophet, what was Quran. Everything would have been completely different and changed. Anyway, yeah, thank you very much. This is a very good explanation. I think it definitely will enlighten so many hearts. Although we have a lot of misunderstanding because of this distorted history. Anyway,